Hi there! Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, my very good friend, Drew Crawley. Drew, good to see you, brother.
You too, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We've kind of had a run of no sunshine here in the bluegrass state and kind of getting tired of that. So,
Indeed.
It's not been terribly cold, and I'm sure everybody's tuning in to hear me talk about the weather. So this is very exciting for everyone I know. But anyway, you know what makes things better? Whiskey and music.
Whiskey is, both.
Yeah. So at any rate, tonight is our Music of the Year award show. And as a little teaser to that, we are also going to be announcing our nominees for Whiskey of the Year and our Whiskey of the Year show. So go ahead and write this down now, mark it in your calendar, and it'll be on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all this stuff too. But December 28th, 1 week from today, as this show airs, Drew and I'll be on live at 8 o'clock on the 28th with our special guests, Pat and Mike from My Whiskey Den. They're going to be on to, I guess, mock our selections or just make fun of us in general. I don't know. We've done a few shows with these guys, both them on our show, us on theirs, and it's just always fun to hang out. So we'll just see how that goes, and we'll be able to get a live version of this.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out, which do come out every single Wednesday on all of the services: Spotify, Apple Music, Google, maybe Amazon, definitely YouTube. And always hit that like button, but hit it an odd number of times, so then that way it stays as a like.
So we'll have that to look forward to live 1 week from today. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and first we'll start out talking about our Whiskey of the Year nominees. Now, when we do the show, we'll have a couple of other awards that we'll do, but this is the big one for us. So, Drew, start out with what your first Whiskey of the Year nominee is, in no particular order.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in no particular order, it just happened to be what I was pouring tonight. So my first nominee is going to be the Buzzard's Roost Cigar Blend 1. So from our friend Jason Bronner.
Cigar blend. Yeah.
One of the more interesting and different ones that I've come across this year. I think we probably tried this together for the first time earlier. Maybe it was February or March, but just really caught me by surprise. Have enjoyed it all year long. This one's been a staple for me. So Buzzard's Roost Cigar Blend. That's number one for me.
That's a good number one. My number one, and we had it featured on a show just a couple weeks ago when we had David Jennings on, Rare Bird 101, and that is Wild Turkey 12-year. And so really enjoyed that. I think it's very, it's kind of all the things that are good about Wild Turkey wrapped up into one really nicely aged bottle of whiskey. So, and David, when he was on, he said it's one of the best things that Wild Turkey's released in a while. So, cheers to good whiskey.
Cheers, my friend.
Yep, good whiskey.
Awesome.
Highly recommend it. All right. So, what is your second nominee?
Yeah, and I'm wondering if this might be overlapping on both of ours, because I know that we both enjoyed this, but I'm going to go with the Brooklyn Distilling American Single Malt. That's going to be on mine.
That one is, yeah, that was delicious. It was a pick from Sealbox, Blake,
Yes.
and our good friend over there. And yeah, that's a fantastic one. That bottle went far too quickly, and when I went to order another one at Sealbox, they were gone. So that was very disappointing. So,
yeah.
My second one is this Yellowstone family recipe. This is 6 years, 100 proof. It is the mash bill of Guy Beam, the yeast used by Jacob Beam, and distilled by Stephen Beam at Limestone Branch Distillery. So it came out, I guess, spring of this year, and it was a bold departure for them from what their sourced bourbons had been under the same name. But really, really enjoy that one. That is a winner for sure. And we had Stephen Fonte on the show right after that came out, and he gave us all kinds of great information about that. So if you want to learn more about it, you can search the archives of our show and find the show we did with Stephen Fonte. So
absolutely.
Drew,
all right,
what else you got?
I'm also going to refer to a past show guest on this one, Mr. Lenny Eckstein or Eckstein. I've heard it both ways, but I'm going to go with the Deer Hammer port finished edition for this one. So it's 100 proof. It's 2 years, and the one thing that stands out to me about this one, it's on paper, it is not something that I would reach for. We've all done the port finished whiskey thing. We've all done the young craft thing, and this is just so artfully done, and it overcomes every objection on paper with complexity. It's got a richness. It's got a very different kind of thing going for it. And the way that Lenny explained kind of what they did back on that show, if you haven't listened, go listen. Just totally won my heart. So this one was a surprise for me, but it's got to be on the list.
Yeah. It is fantastic, and it's so fantastic. It is also on my list.
Outstanding.
And again, I'm not one to normally reach for a finished whiskey, but boy, this is so well done, and it is a pretty spot on distillation. I think this was one that we also tried with Nancy Fraley when she was on.
I believe that's right. Yeah.
And she's had some wonderful things to say about it as well. You can order the Deer Hammer, even if it's not on the shelves in your neighborhood, you can go to deerhammer.com and you can order from there. They deliver, I believe, to most states right now. So check out what Lenny's got going on over there. All right. What else you got, Drew?
All right. So I think this is number 4.
It is
my
number 4.
Nominee is going to be the Iron Root Harbinger, the 115 proof edition. And as much as we all love everything that Iron Root does, I know you're a fan of the Icarus, the straight corn. I think both of us are friends, are fans of the Promethean as well. I like the Harbinger because for $45, it can show up at my doorstep via GoPuff and be here any day of the week, and it is dadgum delicious. So the Texas whiskey profile is kind of starting to enter into my wheelhouse a little bit more. Yeah. I'm enjoying a little bit more of that. I don't want to call it sharpness, but it definitely has a different edge to it than the Kentucky profile or the Indiana profile. And so I've really been enjoying that one. It was great to talk to those guys earlier in the year, and so that one's going to be on my 2022 list.
Yeah, that's a really, really good one. It can't miss. I've got a couple of distillery only selections that I was able to get a purchase of recently. That
Very
our
nice.
good friend Shannon Hood is going to go by Iron Root and pick those up for me. So I'm looking forward to those. When I have those in hand, they will definitely be making it onto a show discussion somewhere. Possibly a 2023 Whiskey of the Year nomination. Who knows? Because all their stuff is so good. But
wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So I'm to the number 4 on my list. Again, no particular order. So no particular order. But I mean, seriously, why would we list them out in number 1 to number 5 and then hope that you'll tune into the show anyway? So this is not a ranking by any means, but the fourth nominee for me is Solomon Scott Rye from our good friend Alan Bishop, Spirits of French Lick. It is it's an outstanding rye. They've had it out for a little while the previous year, doing some just single barrel releases. It came out as a bottled and bond. It's 5-year rye. I said, Alan, why'd you go to 5 years for a rye? He goes, well, because everybody else is releasing ryes at 2 and 3 years. So I thought, well, let's do something different and release it later. And it pays off. It's fantastic. One of my favorites from the year is the Solomon Scott Rye. All right, Drew, what's your fifth nominee?
All right. So as much as it pains me to leave Alan off my list, because that Solomon Scott was my number 6 or my honorable mention, I guess. But this one just happened to hit me in the perfect place emotionally. It came out about 3 days before my birthday, or at least that's whenever I was able to get one. So my fifth and final for this year was Elijah Craig C922. And it gives me everything that I want out of that. You've got that big old toffee bomb. You've got the walnut. You've got a little bit of that black pepper spice and that capsaicin kind of numbing thing from the proof. Just all the things that you love about Elijah Craig barrel proof. And this one just kind of knocked it out of the park for me and hit me right at a perfect place in time. So it had to make the list.
Excuse me. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is one of the stronger, regular, recurring releases in that barrel proof space, I think.
I would agree. And, David Jennings, when he was on a few weeks ago, talked about the competitiveness of rare breed.
Right.
And I agree with him. But, just in terms of consistency and availability, at least for us here in Louisville, Elijah Craig is probably a close second for that one. And it just always does it for my flavor profile. So,
yeah.
What's your fifth?
My fifth was your first. Yeah, that cigar rye from Buzzard Roost. That was, I was surprised how much I liked it. Not that I've not enjoyed most anything that Jason Bronner and his team over at Buzzard Roost have done. But cigar rye, I'm not a cigar guy. I didn't really think that would be something that would appeal to me. But it really does. It is fantastic. And looking forward to trying batch 2, which has just come out recently. And we've got Jason on the show. Actually, Jason will be our first guest on the first show of 2023 that will air early January of that year. He was our first guest of 2022 also. So we're going to start the year off back to back with Jason. But we'll be able to talk with him more about that cigar rye and more about what else they've got cooking over there at Buzzard Roost, because they've got some really fun stuff going on. It's amazing how that program has grown. And it's not going to happen by chance or just sloppiness. Those guys are really on top of their game. So cigar rye, then if you have the opportunity, check that out. So Drew, your Whiskey of the Year nominees.
Yes.
This is not the order that you announced them, but
okay.
Any overall thoughts?
Man, so I actually was really surprised at how much I was departing from your typical Kentucky bourbon profile, because that's been where I've lived for the last 3 or 4 years. But I'm coming to realize I like American single malts, and I might have a little bit of a crush on Texas whiskey. So those are all kind of surprises to see it all listed out, but no surprise based on the quality of the whiskey that we've tasted over the year. I just didn't realize kind of when I was going back through my notes of like, oh yeah, that one was a favorite and that one was too. And, how it goes. So,
Yeah.
how about you?
It was hard to leave the Brooklyn single malt off of my list. I'm a big fan of Iron Root, but Harbinger is something that I've been that I've had around for 2 or 3 years now. So really enjoyed that. The second release of the 3-chamber rye from Leopold Brothers, that was another one that I really enjoyed. But there's my list. So anyway, I agree. Single malt is something that I'm really getting into now. I tried one the other day that might make the list for next year. Just really, really well done and at a great price. But really enjoying the single malt world. And Turkey, the Wild Turkey 12. While it's a special release, it's not that difficult to get a hold of if you put forth a little effort.
Yeah.
But everything else is kind of crafty. The Buzzard Roost is sourced MGP rye, but they put it through their paces with their own proprietary secondary barrels, and that really sets it off. So, any general thoughts about this list?
Well, man, I mean, I would probably have put all of those on mine as well if I had more spaces to give. But no, I mean, those are all incredible whiskeys. I'm kicking myself for not putting something from Yellowstone on my list when I saw that one go up there. So that was good. And I heard a little rumor that Buzzard's Roost is going to have their own first or primary barrels coming soon. So they'll be in complete control of their cooperage process. And then I don't know if this is the one you were referring to, and you don't have to tell me any secrets, but that our friends over at Limestone Branch might be having their own American single malt out soon. So
they will. I think it's a 20-year American single malt from parent company. The new parent company. Okay.
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see what that's like. And hopefully we can get Stephen Fonte or Steve Beam on the show, and they can talk to us about that and what else they have going on. And when we had Fonte on, we asked him about this family recipe. Hey, is this going to be an annual release? And he said, I don't know. So maybe we can get some clarification on that, because it is too good to not make that a normal part of your lineup. So I guess a couple others maybe that would have been, Dry Fly, their wheat whiskey, barrel strength wheat whiskey was outstanding. Everything I've had from those guys this year has been great. I think Don Poffenroth over there is just knocking it out of the park. And they're tucked away over in Washington State. So, our Kentucky bias, Eastern time zone bias, whatever you want to call it, kind of gets in the way of sometimes of knowing what's going on out there. Our good friend Chris Koenig at Golden Beaver, they've come out with batch 2 of their rice whiskey, and I've had a little sample of that, and it's really good. And we'll probably do, I think we may, what we may need to do, a show where we compare batch to batch. So do batch to batch on Golden Beaver and batch to batch on Cigar Rye. And I'm sure there's some others that we can think of pretty easily to try that way.
I like it.
Just something fun to do. But all right, so folks, those are our nominees. Again, Drew, the Brooklyn American Single Malt. It's a Sealbox pick. And just keep your eyes peeled at sealbox.com or use their app. And I think they're trying to get another single barrel from these guys And when it pops up, don't hesitate. Go get it. Our friend Lenny out at Deerhammer, their American single malt port finish. Any negative preconceived notions you have about a port finish or any kind of finish, set those aside and try this. Iron Root Harbinger, the licorice family down there in Denison, Texas. They just keep making great stuff. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof C922. That was also on Drew's list. It's hard to go wrong with an Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. It just is. And then finally, Buzzard Drew's Cigar Rye, which also made my list, along with the Deerhammer Port Finish, Wild Turkey 12-year, which I'm sipping on tonight, Spirits of French Lick Solomon Scott Rye, and that Yellowstone family recipe. So that kind of wraps up the list of nominees for Whiskey of the Year. Be sure to tune in. Find the graphic. Be sure to tune in a week from today, December 28th at 8 o'clock. We'll be live with Pat and Mike, our brothers from My Whiskey Den. And who knows what I will get into with that show. It's always an adventure. Always an adventure. Who knows? Maybe we'll have some special guests that'll pop in too. Ooh. You never know. You never know. So, Drew, we are going to now talk about our Music of the Year awards. And, looking back, it was a pretty solid year for music. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I had as difficult time narrowing down my nominees this year as I did last, but there were some things that were tough to leave off. And
yeah.
So before we get into that, anything, any particular, talk about music, for the year, any particular concerts stand out to you as memorable? I know that you went to a lot of shows, a lot of big shows this year.
Yeah, it was a big year for me show wise. I don't want to get into a big long list, but some standouts. Early February of last year, I got to see Dashboard Confessional and Jimmy Eat World, which was great for my little emo heart. But then, I saw Willie Nelson this year.
Oh, wow.
I saw Stevie Nicks this year. I got to see Zach Bryan in the front row. So there were a lot of really big standout moments. I have no complaints about the live music that I was able to entertain, but I would probably say if I had to narrow it down, probably Willie Nelson and Stevie Nicks were kind of the two that were just legend status. Probably won't get to see them again. Just incredible once in a lifetime type shows. So, what about you?
Probably the most unique concert experience I had was getting to see Tool live.
Yes.
That was something else. And because their musicianship is just at another level. And being able to see that and enjoy that live was something else. And so the Tool concert was one that was really big. I saw a lot of smaller shows, and that's where I went to Zanzibar and saw the Cold Stairs and Sweet Lady on the same bill. And we have some show guests out of that, and we've made some friends out of that. So that was pretty cool. Got to see Blue Funk, another band, local band, that I got to see early this year. Got to get to know Johnny Edwards a little bit. Johnny's been on the show, terrific guy. So I guess I say all that to say this: go to local shows.
Absolutely.
Go to smaller venues, because you know what? Most of the time, those guys are loading and unloading their own gear, and you can walk up to them before, you can walk up to them after, or walk up to them during the break. introduce yourself. Tell them you enjoy their stuff. Tell them about our show. You know, and because that means something to those guys. I mean, you perform at venues like that, Drew.
Yeah, definitely.
Somebody walks up to you and says, "Hey, I really enjoyed that set."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not, get away from me, punk, right?
Right. No, that's a person that's going to have my full attention for a little while. So yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes you go see people in small venues and they're not any good. Okay, it's not like you're out $80 plus $40 of Ticketmaster fees.
Right.
You know, you paid a $5 or $6 cover charge or something, and you bought a drink or two. You're all right. You know.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you're going to find something that you enjoy. So before we start getting into our nominees for album of the year, any that aren't on your list that were like, boy, this one was tough to leave off?
Yeah, there's a lot, and I don't want to get into all of it because I think you and I could probably sit here and unpack it for an hour and a half. The newest Stapleton record, I know it came out in 2021, but that was in super, super heavy rotation for me. So it's, the Starting Over was big time for me. There were several kind of compilation type things that did a lot. I recently got into that show Yellowstone, and has one of the best soundtracks of all time as far as TV shows are concerned. So there are several artists on there that put out projects, but I'm going to try to keep it pretty focused to the 5 actually nominated, because otherwise we'll be talking for 3 hours.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. There are a few that were tough to leave off. The Tyler Childers album, Can I Take My Hounds to Heaven? I really enjoyed that. A lot of the critics did not. But I thought it was pretty interesting. And if you're unfamiliar with it, it's 8 songs. One's a cover of, I think, a Hank Williams song, and one's a cover of his own song, Purgatory. But he does it in 3 different styles. And so there's a total of 24 tracks, but there's 8 songs done 3 times, 3 different ways. And I think it's a very creative album, interesting concept. And I really enjoyed that a lot. It was tough to leave that one off. I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers album, Unlimited Love.
It's very good.
Now, they've come out with a second album in 2022, which is apparently a trend now, to come out with multiple albums in the same year. I didn't like the second one nearly as well as the first, but I think the Unlimited Love album marked the return of Frusciante as on guitar, right?
Yep.
I know you're a big fan of his.
I am. Yeah, I liked Unlimited Love. I have not gotten to listen to the second one, but that was a good one.
Yeah. And there's a live Willie Nelson album, live at Budokan. Man, I mean, it was like, okay, can you put that on there, because it was recorded in, I don't know, 20 years ago or something. But it's just hearing him sing is just, it's gorgeous.
Absolutely.
It's just gorgeous. It's Willie Nelson in his best voice. And there's a Tom Petty album, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, live at the Fillmore from 25 years ago, that just came out. And it kind of encompasses, the hits from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, but they're also doing some kind of one-off songs that Mike Campbell wrote, and as well as doing some covers of some old songs that kind of inspired them when they were getting started. So
Love
again, can you include a live album from that was recorded quarter century ago on a album of the year list in 2022? Yeah, maybe. But just take note of both the Tom Petty album and the Willie album. I mean, Tom Petty covers Leonard Skinner on that album. I mean, you can't go wrong with that, right?
Yep. Also, it's our show. We make the rules. We can add whatever.
That's true. We could probably do whatever the heck we want. And if somebody doesn't like it, they can, as happened to me on a show I recorded with Alan Bishop and some others the other night, they can tell me to F off.
Yeah, that was rather entertaining for me watching live. Great. Well. I have two more that I want to mention, but I'm relatively confident they're going to be on your list.
Okay.
So I'm going to save them until after you give your list, and we can discuss them if they show up. If not, I'll toss them in at the end.
Okay, that sounds good. So let's start out, and what we'll do is kind of like what we did with the nominees for Whiskey of the Year. We'll kind of trade off listing out what ours are, again, in no particular order. And then once you've listed yours and I've listed mine, then we'll say whatever our album of the year is. And then we'll get into some other things like Song of the Year, et cetera, et cetera. So, Drew, Perfect. What is your first pick?
First nominee is going to be an EP that actually came out a couple of years ago by a band called Flatland Cavalry. A couple months ago, not a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
The EP is called Songs to Keep You Warm.
Yep.
So there's 5 or 6 songs on there. This is a band that I've loved for a couple of years now out of West Texas, and it's very much in the spirit of the Highwaymen, Turnpike Troubadours, these kind of other bands that I love. But their songwriting is just absolutely gorgeous. I got to hear them do a few of these songs live before the record came out at Bonnaroo, and was really moved by their whole set. One of the songs features the fiance of the lead singer singing backup, and that duet's just gorgeous. So this one really caught my attention when it came out a couple months back, and I've loved it ever since. So this one's going on the record.
It is the song the parallel song that does Ashley Monroe. Is that his fiance?
Nope, the other one.
Okay.
I've got to go back to the record to remember the song.
How long? Caitlin Butts. Yeah.
Yep. That's his fiance.
Yeah.
So
my favorite on the album is the one that they do with Ashley Monroe.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I think that's gorgeous.
Absolutely
that's gorgeous
beautiful
stuff there.
If you haven't heard her duets with Eric Church, she's got a couple from the Opry series. Her voice is gorgeous. So
she did a duet with the band Steelwoods that was on an album that was, I don't remember if it was on my album of the year nominees or if the song was like my song of the year nominee. I don't remember, but
okay.
Love her voice. She's great.
Yep.
And the Flatland Cavalry EP was really good. I enjoyed that. So
cool.
We're going to start with mine. I tell you what, let's start someplace kind of odd.
Let's do it.
And the bucket list. Okay. This is Phil Keaggy, Tony Levin, and Jerry Marotta. And Phil Keaggy is, most of his career, he's been playing instrumentals or playing contemporary Christian music. But he's widely regarded as one of the finest guitarists in music today. Tony Levin is a groundbreaking bass player. He's played with Bowie. He's played with Peter Gabriel. And then Jerry Marotta has also played with Peter Gabriel and just he's the drummer. He makes the drums just sing. And this album is it's an instrumental album. A lot of jazz influence in there. So, if you think me going for putting a single malt port finish on my whiskey of the year list is off profile, a jazz album is also a little off profile. But these guys are just exceptional musicians. And so sometime just when you're sitting around with some group of friends, you want some music on in the background, stick that on there. And the danger is you're going to be focused more on what they're doing in the album than you are with the people that are around you, because it's really exceptional. Great musicianship.
That's fantastic. I love that you mentioned something like that, because that's completely off my radar. Like, would never show up in my algorithm on Spotify or whatever. So thank you for that. I'll definitely be checking that out. That's really cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So, all right. So that's one for you, one for me. What's your next one?
So my next one's going to be by Miss Emily Scott Robinson, the album American Siren. So this is something that Mike Lezak brought up on our New Music, New Whiskey show with them a while back. And I have fallen in love with this record, both from its just kind of iconic presentation, kind of harkening back to the 60s, 70s of the Nashville sound and some of West Texas country music. But what I really love about Emily Scott Robinson is her songwriting. If you know anything about record labels, she is on Oh Boy Records, which is John Prine's label, and that totally tracks. If you listen to any of that, it's poetry, and it's, I don't want to say simple because that sounds kind of diminutive, but simple is the only way to put it. It is just so accessible. If you're, she just has a way of turning a phrase that you're like, oh, I know exactly what she meant. And there's no kind of imagery or anything. She just captures the human experience so well and so beautifully. So love that. And big thanks to Mike for turning me on to that record. That's definitely on my list for this year.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. And again, just the album cover itself looks like something that, you know, Tanya Tucker or Tammy Wynette or Loretta Lynn would have been on. And you know, you can see the white cowboy boots there with the red dress. That's just classic. But I would agree. Her songwriting is really solid. And it's kind of like the music's very unadorned. There's not a lot of overproduction to it. It's very straightforward. It lets the instruments and her voice kind of take over, and it doesn't get in the way of the story she's telling with her music.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
So, all right, my second one is, let's just go ahead and Tedeschi Trucks Band.
There
I Am the Moon. Yeah. When I first heard about this project, I was very, very excited because they what they did is they released 4 albums over the course of the summer, one a month, and they had a video that they released with it. So it's kind of like video tracking each song on the individual album. And it made it very easy to absorb these albums, and because they're 7 songs, 8 songs, and maybe 35-40 minutes of music. Okay, well, you put that all together, and now you've got 30 something songs and 2 hours of music once all 4 have been released. And I'm a big Tedeschi Trucks Band fan because they've got the best singer and the best guitarist. So it's hard not to be pretty good. But live, I don't think there's anybody that can touch them.
Agreed.
In terms of their albums, their studio albums, they're good. And but none have really struck me as, wow, that's awesome. Until now. And that the whole Eye on the Moon thing, I encourage you, give it a listen. If you like music, if you like good singing and excellent lyrics, check that out. There's a whole storyline behind it as well. that I won't get into today. But I Am the Moon. And
so
that
good.
album is right there.
That one was going to be on my list, but I left it off because I was like 99% confident that it would be on yours. I just wanted it to be discussed somewhere. So, it's so good. So good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So you got number 3?
Yeah, I got another one. So my number 3 is going to be American Heartbreak by Mr. Zach Bryan.
Yeah.
So I am partial to Zach's music. He grew up about 45 minutes away from where I grew up. And I've kind of followed his whole career, but he put out what can only be described as a prolific release earlier this year, about 34, I believe, songs, and then followed it up with another 10-song album about 6 weeks later. So the dude's nuts as a songwriter, but it was really, really cool for me to get this record when I did. It came out earlier in the summer, and it was processing a lot from his perspective on divorce and loss and falling in love again, and some friendship themes, and all of those themes have run through my own life in the last year and a half, 2 years. And so it just felt like someone else coming along and saying, hey, it's going to be all right. Like, this is normal. This is part of the human experience. So that album hit me at a really good time. And I just appreciate the hell out of his musicianship and his ability as a songwriter. Getting to see him live a couple times this year was great too. So that music has been kind of the soundtrack for this year in particular. So
he released about the same number of songs and about the same length of songs as Tedeschi Trucks did.
Yes,
he did it in a way that was a little more difficult to digest.
Most definitely.
Here it is all at once. And so it kind of took me a few settings to get through it all, and then kind of go back through and decide, okay, what are the tracks that really appeal to me? The Something in Orange is, I think that's the first song on the album. I think it's exceptional. Right Now the Best is another one I enjoy. And Sober Side of Sorry, I think is pretty good too.
Yeah, that one will hit you if you've ever woken up with some regrets after drinking too much.
Well, we won't talk about that too much then. But yeah, I thought that was really good, and came out with a new single last week. Yeah. So I think
we're up to 41 Zach Bryan releases in the 2022 calendar year. The dude is nuts.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. Another one for me is Lyle Lovett, 12th of June. And again, this is a little off profile for me, but you cannot deny an excellent, unique album when you hear it. And this is definitely that. He's playing with his longtime band. I think they call it the Large Band on this album. And it is like jazz country fusion. And a lot of it is very light, about, being a father. The title track, 12th of June, is about the day that his twins were born. It's different. It's different. If you're a Lyle Lovett fan, you'll enjoy it for sure, but it's going to be different. But different is good. I think he's 65 now, something like that, and he's still exploring new things musically and lyrically. So be sure to check that out. The Lyle Lovett 12th of June album.
Dig it. That's one that has fallen on my radar, but I haven't gotten a chance to listen to. I think you and Mike had both mentioned that as a previous kind of influence when we were together. I don't know if that was talked about on the show or just when the three of us were hanging out, but
I don't remember. May have been. Maybe on the show.
Sure.
Maybe on the show.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
I like it.
What else you got?
All right, I got two more.
Yep.
My next one's going to be Mr. Noah Khan, Sixth Season is the name of the record. So that one was new to me. Uh, didn't know this, but Noah Khan has been kind of on the pop scene for several years, and then went through some tough personal things and got locked inside during COVID, like the rest of us, and made a pardon the French, but a kick-ass folk album, and kind of departed from the pop thing entirely, and then really found his stride and just has been blowing up all over the place. So he's got some great songs on that record. Growing Sideways was fantastic. Halloween was fantastic. I like the title track, Sixth Season. It's a good song, but he's got some really deep writing as you go throughout the album, and it really is kind of like walking with someone who kind of found themselves as you go throughout the record. So it's really, really cool, and looking forward to getting to see him live at least twice that I have tickets for next year. So I'm looking forward to that a good bit.
Yeah. No, I had not heard of him till you shared that with me, and I enjoy the album. I think the songwriting is really solid. I think there's a song called "All My Love." I think that's probably my favorite track on the album. But definitely something that would be worth seeing live, especially if it's the right venue. So,
well, I don't know if you're into this, but he and Rustin Kelly are doing a tour that will be through Indy in I think May. So
okay,
yeah, if you want to go, let me know. We'll figure something out.
All right, we'll figure something out. Very good.
That's a really entertaining conversation for podcast listeners.
Yeah, for tickets, okay.
Awesome. What's your fourth?
This dude, Marcus King, is just incredibly, incredibly talented. And I was thinking, okay, I know he's put out like 3 albums with the Marcus King band, and now this is his second as just Marcus King. And why you have to make that change, I don't know. But your name was in the name of the band, and now it's you just dropped band. But anyway, I thought, okay, this guy's been around the block a while. He's only 26 years old, and he's got 5 albums out now. This one, Young Blood, it just rocks, and it really does. Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys produced this one along with his last album, El Dorado. It's a fantastic album, and just some very creative production. A lot of times when Dan Auerbach would produce an album, it would sound a little like the Black Keys, which is not a bad thing, but you don't necessarily want that. That doesn't come through as much in this album as some other things I've heard Dan do. But everything about this album instrumentally is top notch. If it weren't Marcus King, lead guitar guy, you could say, okay, this is a great drum album. It kicks. It just does. So again, fan of good music, especially if you like blues rock, Marcus King, Youngblood is something you need to check out.
Definitely. And I would just tack on to that. A lot of people, I think in the rock vein, especially, this is just my experience, but they don't tend to hold up quite as well live. Marcus King dials it up to 12. Like he doesn't even stop at 11 live. That record is fantastic, and I would agree with everything you said. But if you get a chance to see him live, the dude rips.
Yeah, and incredibly odd-looking man.
Yes,
but some sort of bikini supermodel girlfriend. So
yeah, like 3 in a row.
Yeah, I don't know.
Black magic. I don't know. He sold his soul to the devil at some point.
Yeah, he went down to the crossroads. Anyway, all right, you got one more, buddy.
I got one more. So my fifth and final, again in no particular order, is Mr. Drayton Farley, A Hard Up Life. So that is somebody I recently encountered. I saw him as the opening act for Willie Nelson here in town at Iroquois Amphitheater. and was really, really impressed with his songwriting ability, his storytelling ability. He has an incredibly magnetic personality about him, speaking from the stage. Could play the guitar with the best of them, but I just loved his sound and really kind of wore that one out. So that was going to be my last one for this particular conversation.
Yeah. And facial hair that is above and beyond anything you'll see from most anybody else.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
Seen that since like Mumford and Sons and Duck Dynasty were popular.
Hey, he's got a look. Go for
Absolutely.
it. No, I enjoyed the Drayton Farley album.
Mm-hmm.
The Stoic Faces, I think, was the opening track. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. There was one called Take Me Back. I thought that was a kind of a highlight of the album as well.
Yeah.
So, all right. I've got one more nominee, and it is Jack White, Fear of the Dawn. We kind of did a deep dive on this album on a show, I don't know, right after it came out in April, May, something like that. Mm-hmm. So won't get into this too deeply. I think that it is kind of Jack White at his rocking best. There's several tracks on here where he plays all the instruments, and just showcasing his talent as a musician, as well as a songwriter on this. So, Jack White, Fear of the Dawn. Any thoughts on that?
Well, that was going to be another one of my honorable mentions, but I knew you were going to bring it up. So thank you for freeing up some space on my list.
Sure.
It's a great record. We talked about it in depth. You can go and hear that episode on it. And again, not to beat this point to death, but if you get the chance to see Jack White live, he's another one that just takes what you hear on that record and takes it to a whole nother level. If you get a chance to see him live, we caught him at Bourbon Beyond this year and just tore the house down. So, yeah, big fan.
Yeah. All right. So, Music of the Year, Album of the Year nominees for Drew. Mm-hmm. So, you've got the Emily Scott Robinson album, the Zach Bryan album, the Flatland Cavalry album, the Noah. Now, Kahan or Khan?
I've heard it both ways. I saw some kind of interview where he said Khan, so I'm going with Khan.
All right,
but who knows?
Khan, not like Wrath of Khan. We're not going to get into Star Trek here, but Noah Khan and Drayton Farley. So your album of the year is what?
My album of the year is going to be American Heartbreak by Zach Bryan. If you're friends with me, you know that's probably not a huge surprise.
Yeah.
I love Zach. So I'm going to admit my bias, but that album in particular, but all of his music has been a really important thing in Caitlin and I's relationship. It's kind of our relationship soundtrack. And getting to see him live this year. We shared a couple of different family memories, a family vacation to Bardstown earlier this year, and Thanksgiving. And that album was just on and on and on. So this whole year has been kind of ensconced in that record, and I couldn't choose anything else. So that's going to be my album of the year.
Yep. That is not a surprise, but it's a good choice. It's a very good choice, and it's an authentic choice. So, all right, for myself, we got that pear-shaped fellow Marcus King and his album Youngblood. And I say that with all respect, man, because the guy is so super talented. The I Am the Moon album from Tedeschi Trucks Band, Jack White, Fear of the Dawn, The Bucket List from Kagi, Levin, and Murata, and then Lyle Lovett, 12th of June. And my album of the year, which will probably also come as no surprise, is Tedeschi Trucks Band, I Am the Moon. It's... You start playing it and you can't stop, and
so good.
Every single release of it was a nice event. I would watch the release on YouTube where they had the video that played with the tracks, and then immediately go back and listen to it again. It's just solid from beginning to end. You would think that with, I don't know, 30 something tracks that you'd have something in there that's a throwaway, but there's not.
Nope.
There's not at all.
Not a one.
So our albums of the year, again, I Am the Moon by Tedeschi Trucks Band and American Heartbreak by Zach Bryan. You're not going to go wrong listening to either of those.
Nope. You got a lot of music to listen to.
Yeah, you do. Carve out half a day.
Yeah. Next time you have a long road trip, just cue those both up. Yeah.
Yep. That'll do it for you. All right. So, album of the year is there. What about song of the year? And we've not talked about this at all yet.
That's right.
So, song of the year. Let's. I don't know how many you've got. Maybe, hopefully, you have.
Pick
five or so. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
I've got 5 too. And
cool. Do you want to alternate, or do you just want me to run down my list? Okay.
Yeah. Let's do that. Do that.
All right. So my first one's going to be "Highway Boys" by Zach Bryan. That was my number one most listened to song on Spotify this year. And the algorithm is almost never wrong. I share a Spotify account, but that one showed up a lot. It's just a great fun song, and really like that one. So because it was my number one most listened to, I had to throw it on the list.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll go ahead and get this one out of the way. Not out of the way is probably the wrong way to put it, but the first of the 4 albums from Tedeschi Trucks Band has an extended instrumental on it. Let's be with instrumentals this year. I don't know. Anyway, it has an extended instrumental on it, which you're thinking, okay, it's Tedeschi Trucks Band. Why would you pick a song that doesn't have Susan Tedeschi singing? I don't know. But the first time I heard it, I'm like, what did I just hear? Because this like seems to defy the laws of music and sound. It was so incredible. And I went back and listened to it again. And then I went back and listened to it again. And it's just amazing. It is a song called Passaquan. It's the last track on the first album of this set. It's just fantastic. All right.
Love that one.
Yeah. So that's 1 and 1 there. What's your second?
Second one, so this is also off one of my nominees, but it's going to be the song "Mountain Song" by Flatland Cavalry. That one is got such a melancholy and a haunt to it. I find myself when I'm driving home from either a gig or late night at work, just throwing that on for the drive home in the 10 or 15 minutes, and really have just enjoyed that one. It's got some themes of kind of longing and loss and all that kind of stuff. Not anything that I'm personally experiencing, but something that I enjoy meditating on. So really like that song, and that one's in heavy rotation as well.
Okay. My second one, it was just kind of a one-off single release. He didn't have an album come out this year, but it's a song called "Talk and Walk" by Mammoth WVH, which is Wolfgang Van Halen. His album from previous year, it's still something that I listen to frequently. And the song "Talk and Walk" is fantastic. And my goal, if I had to set some big audacious goal for this year, I want to get Wolfgang Van Halen and his mom, Valerie Bertinelli, on the show. Yeah. Because I'm getting kind of a man crush on Wolfgang, because the guy's just so darn talented. I mean, he plays all the instruments on his stuff, and it is all is incredible. And kind of my first celebrity crush was his mom, so I can kind of bookend that. And so that's the goal for 2023, Drew.
I like it. I like it.
So if any of you out there listening to the show knows anybody, if you're friends with Wolfgang, if you're friends with Valerie, kind of put in a good word for us. We'd appreciate it. All right, what's number 3, Drew?
All right. So my number 3 was a song called Tears Worth the Gold by Benjamin Todd. He is a Lexington singer-songwriter. He's the frontman for the Lost Dog Street Band. They are the house band at the Burl in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
They are part of the whole jamgrass movement, which is basically speed metal on banjos and guitars.
Yeah.
Which is great. But I got a couple of tattoos this past year, and that song was on both times I finished my tattoos.
Okay.
And I had this emotional connection with it, and I just asked the guy that was giving them to me, hey, what's the deal with this? Like, what's this song? And he goes, no, this is this guy I love. He's out of Lexington. And so I started really digging into their songwriting, and he's incredible. So Benjamin Todd, Tears Worth of Gold, that's going to be my number 3.
Cool. I like that. My number 3 is a song called The Joy by the Cold Stairs.
Oh, yeah.
Man, it's, we had Chris Tapp, who's the lead singer, songwriter, and vocalist for that band. He was on the show a few weeks ago. And, he was a great guest, had a really big time with him. We'll hope to get him back on once or twice next year. But this song is fantastic. It's kind of a love song, a little bit of, not really a ballad, but it's kind of more of a love song than what a lot of their stuff is. But it really takes a new direction for the band in terms of the songwriting and the type of music that they're doing. It still fits, but it just kind of is an evolution, I guess, for them. It'll be on their new album that's coming out in March. I've heard the album. It's, we can go ahead and put it down for Album of the Year nominee for next year.
Love it.
But Song of the Year for this year is a song called The Joy. So, all right, Drew.
I like it.
What's
2
next?
more, right?
Yep.
Just making sure. Okay. So my next one is going to be a song called West Texas in My Eye by a super group called the Panhandlers. And so this is several bands out of West Texas and Southwest Oklahoma that came together. And they do a big fundraiser every year that involves a small EP. That song particularly captured me. And the turn of phrase is, I'm not crying. That's just West Texas in my eye. It's about a guy that misses home.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of missing home for me this year. And I was particularly captured by that thought. And that song's just been in such heavy rotation. I've probably listened to it 3 times a week minimum, which is not a ton, but it's a lot for me to have a song in that heavy rotation. So that was just one that got my heart, and it's been in rotation all year. So
very cool.
It's a good one.
Very cool. All right. My 4th is a song off an album that I mentioned, Tyler Childers, Can I Take My Hounds to Heaven? It's a song called Ways of the Triune God. And it's just
so good.
One of the ways, to me, one of the ways that you can, a song feels like a great song, or it feels like a great album, is if it's new and it's unique, but it feels like it's been around forever.
Yep.
And that's what this has.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think I listened to this back in 1982.
Oh yeah.
Well, no, it came out in 2022. It feels like a classic.
Yep.
Right out of the gate. And that's the way, that's what I get from that album, and in particular that song. It's the best song on the album, I think.
I agree completely. No, I heard that one for the first time on Shuffle because I had intentionally not listened to that record the day it came out, waiting on some of our friends to listen to it so we could talk. But that one came on in the car, on Caitlin's shuffle, and I was like, "Is this the Oak Ridge Boys?" Because it has that Southern gospel feel and the
Yeah.
harmonies and some of that. Like you said, it feels like it's been around forever, and it's great. Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Last one.
Awesome.
Song of the year nominee.
This is so. I didn't know we weren't doing this in order because this is my number one.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Okay. So my number one is the single off of Rustin Kelly's new album, The Weakness. So it's available on a couple different platforms, YouTube, his Patreon, a couple things like that. But the song number one just rocks. It's super cool. Got a great guitar tone to it. Got a lot of great drum and bass kind of energy in between. But it is a song that deals with overcoming addiction. And so as I've gone up and down in that kind of journey for myself, that song has been the one I turned on when things got really bad for me and I was tempted to kind of use again or have make some bad choices or whatever. Not to get overly personal on the podcast, but that song has been a saving grace kind of song for me. So yeah, it rocks. And yeah, I love Rustin Kelly, but that song has literally probably pulled me back from the brink a few times this year. So grateful for that. And that's one of one for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I did not do mine in order, so I'll say what my fifth is. First of all, I love the Rustin Kelly song. It's fantastic, and I can absolutely see how that's a very authentic choice for you, and I love it. I think it's great because it's very real. Okay, he's pretty much opening up himself in the song. Through some very difficult things, and it doesn't have the feel like, well, let me tell you my sad story so you'll buy my record.
That's right.
It sounds like, let me tell you my sad story because I want you to be able to relate to what I've gone through.
That's right.
And maybe it can help. So
yeah, it's an anthem of encouragement. In a lot of ways, just don't give up. Yeah. It's kind of the main thing there. So yeah, I love that. Cool.
Yeah. My last one is a album called Blood Harmony by Larkin Poe. And the whole album is fantastic. And if you're unfamiliar with Larkin Poe, they're a duo, a couple sisters, and they play the heck out of their guitars, and they write some great music. And this song is about their family and how family is more strong, how family is stronger than everything else, basically. So Larkin Poe, definitely check out their music. The Blood Harmony album, Blood Harmony song, can't miss. Cannot miss. All right. So my song of the year is The Joy by the Cold Stairs. That received a heavy rotation for me through the year. And I think it's fantastic song and done in a fantastic way. So, and I will actually be going to see them Friday from when this show airs. So
awesome.
Yep. Going to Kansas City to visit Mike, and we're going to go to the concert there. So
right on. Okay. Yeah. Well, I will have to catch you at a show there when they're a little closer this way. That sounds great.
January 14th, I think. They're in Evansville. So
Yep. So awesome.
So those are our albums of the year, songs of the year. Album of the year for Drew was
American Heartbreak, Zach Bryan.
Yep. And song of the year was
The Weakness by Rustin Kelly.
Yep. And album of the year for me was I Am the Moon by Tedeschi Trucks Band. And song of the year is The Joy by the Cold Stairs. So that's our stuff. We'll be putting a playlist out with this show, most definitely. And you can go through and you can sample through some of the, we'll have selections from each of our albums of the year. definitely the songs of the year that we've got as well. And, leave us comments. Let us know what were your favorite albums this year. What were your favorite songs from this year? We'd love to hear that as well. And who knows, maybe we'll talk about that on a future show too.
Absolutely.
So, all right, Drew, any other thoughts on music in 2022?
It's been an incredible year for, I think, both of us, discovering new things, listening to a lot. We've had the privilege to interview some great musicians on the show. Hopefully some more of that coming. The only takeaway that I would say is for anyone that's listening, like Kevin said earlier, if you get a chance to go and see live shows, whether it's at a small bar or a club or even a music venue, go check that out wherever you're at. It's definitely worth spending a few bucks on a cover charge and a couple of drinks. You're going to find some diamonds in the rough out there. So definitely go do that. I think that's been some of both of our favorite experiences this year.
Yep, absolutely. And it means something to the performers, to the songwriters. So highly recommend that. And when you go see something, post it on our Facebook page, post it on our Facebook group, and tell us what you saw and what you thought of it. And maybe it gives somebody else an idea of a show they need to go to. So, all right. Well, Drew, tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Yep. So it seems like Twitter is going to be gone in a few days, whether by software issues or lawsuits. So we'll leave that alone. But Instagram is at drew.crawley63. You can see all of the upcoming dates for live music and some releases. You can also find music on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you listen to it. And I'll just give a little secret. We have an early Christmas present coming out. So by the time this episode drops, there will be one last little gift of new music for the new year. So
fantastic.
Check that out wherever you listen to your music.
Yeah. Bourbon Turntable is on YouTube. Go over there and hit subscribe. You don't want to miss these shows. They're a lot of fun. Hopefully you're enjoying them. Mm-hmm. You can also listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We have a Facebook page where we release all of our shows. And we have a Facebook group where we like to have people tell us what you're listening to, tell us what you're drinking, and let people comment on that and share what they're doing that night as well. So that is kind of the whole social media aspect of it. But we have a show coming up again next week.
Yeah. So make sure you tune in a week from today, December 28th, with our friends Mike and Pat from My Whiskey Den. We're going to be talking whiskey of the year. I'm sure it'll be a great discussion of whiskey. I am also sure that you'll be entertained by the shenanigans that will ensue. So make sure you take the time to check that one out.
Yep. All right. So until next time, when we have Pat and Mike with us, on behalf of myself and Drew, thank you for tuning in, and cheers, love, and free bird.
Cheers.
Night.